I want to move on briefly to another matter. And that matter is the state of our government. In my entire life, including having observed government for all these years and studied it and analyzed it and written about it, serving 8 years in the Reagan administration, I've never seen anything like what took place in this last election, during the transition, and during the current presidency of Donald Trump. Say what you will about his positions. I agree with many of them. There's certain ones I disagree with, trade and so forth, but that's not what I'm talking about. Put all that aside. We have in this country, and I think it's beyond debate, forget about the ideologues on the left and the cowards in the Republican Party. We have in this country rogue operators who have used their public trust to try and influence the outcome of a presidential election and are now trying to remove a president. And the never Trumpers don't get it, and they don't matter. They're few in number. The left that does get it, and they are abusing and misusing the powers of government for the purpose of justifying their own ends. So any means that will get to their ends. What we now know is that the senior level of the FBI lies and leaks and obstructs and covers up. Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and others. And what we saw in the firing of McCabe, at the urging of the Office of Professional Responsibility, which is a purely professional civil service operation, no political appointees. In fact, the head of the Office of Professional Responsibility for the FBI was appointed by the former FBI Director, Robert Mueller. It is that office that is in charge of investigating the professional responsibility and the ethics of the FBI, of the various members of the FBI. They decided to investigate McCabe because they got a referral from the Inspector General's office of the Department of Justice. The head of the Inspector General's office was appointed by Obama. The office has several hundred individuals, and they're investigating whether or not people within the Justice Department or entities within the Justice Department were involved in wrongdoing. And they are the ones that apparently uncovered McCabe authorizing leaks in the Hillary Clinton matter to help Hillary, and then lying about those leaks to the Inspector General. And then later, apparently, McCabe lied to the Office of Professional Responsibility. I think it's crucially important that we have access to whatever report the Inspector General put together, as well as the Office of Professional Responsibility. So what you have here are these instrumentalities of the FBI trying to get the FBI's good name back, trying to clean up what Mr. Comey, Mr. McCabe, and the others have done at the senior levels of the FBI. The FBI is a wonderful institution. The FBI is a crucial institution. There are thousands and thousands of great patriots that work for the FBI who are appalled and disgusted with what they're seeing at the highest levels, of which they have nothing to do. They have nothing to do with that. And so when the Inspector General's office of the Department of Justice steps up and the OPR office of FBI steps up and says, we need to clean up this place and this guy needs to be fired, it is appalling to me that the Democrats in lockstep, that the media virtually in lockstep, some miscreant Republicans are talking about poor victimized McCabe, when McCabe may well have committed a crime, that he clearly violated the rules of the FBI and the Department of Justice, and he should have been kicked out a long time ago. There are other things in his background with his wife and so forth. I don't need to get into all that. And then Comey. Comey is a leaker. Comey is a liar. I mean, you have McCabe now saying, I only agreed to put out this information if the director agreed to it. He knew about it. And then you've seen testimony played on Fox and other places where Comey testified under oath that he had never authorized anybody to leak anything. But Comey is a serial liar. Now, both of these men took notes of their conversations with the President of the United States. Why did they take notes? To keep an accurate, objective public record? No. CYAs. And I believe they also kept notes, so at some point, if the opportunity presented itself, they would blackmail the President of the United States to keep their power. But instead, they're trying to get even, so they turn it over to this prosecutor, Robert Mueller. Now, Robert Mueller is a very dangerous man. Robert Mueller doesn't know what he doesn't know. And Robert Mueller doesn't believe he has any limits on his power. Robert Mueller has a past. You should Google it, and Google some of the cases that he was involved in that he thoroughly screwed up, including the one we've talked about here before, the anthrax case in Washington, D.C. For 5 years, he and his prosecutors, he and the FBI, chased an innocent man. His name was leaked all over the place. He was smeared. He clearly did not have the evidence. What they had wasn't even circumstantial. But Mueller wanted this guy. He got his man, even though it wasn't the man. For 5 years, this gentleman and his family had to put up with this. The full power, weight, resources of the federal government, of the FBI, right there, the director, chasing him down. But it turns out Mr. Mueller had the wrong man. He had the wrong man. And the man who was guilty of sending anthrax to members of Congress, among others, would wind up dying. And the wrong man sued the Department of Justice and received over $5 million in a settlement. And Mr. Mueller never admitted wrongdoing, never admitted he got the wrong guy, and never apologized to him. That's what kind of person we're dealing with, Robert Mueller. Now, we had over the weekend, as you saw, former CIA Director Brennan, who is a particularly nasty person and particularly intemperate, which is really scary considering he was the head of the CIA. You saw him over the weekend tweeting some of the nastiest things you could say about a president of the United States. But I'm reminded about Mr. Brennan and what kind of a dishonest liar he is. And here's a piece from July 2014 in The Hill. CIA officials improperly hacked, listen to this, improperly hacked the Senate Intelligence Committee's computers as staffers compiled a report on enhanced interrogation techniques the spy agency's inspector general has concluded. Mr. Brennan had told members of Congress, both in hearings and in person, that his people would never do that, and they didn't do that. But there was a whistleblower who came forward and said, oh, yes, they did. And the inspector general at the CIA investigated and said, oh, yes, they did. The CIA was spying on congressional staff on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Can you believe that? And this man kept his job. He later went back and personally apologized. But even liberal Democrats in Congress, Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, and others, Mark Udall at the time was the Democrat from Colorado, they said they were misled by Brennan. They condemned him. And the admission was said to be a stunning turn of events in the standoff between the two bodies and directly contradicts Brennan's earlier claims that the agency would never stoop on the committee's computers, would never snoop on them. This is Brennan. And he kept his job, spying on the staff of members of Congress. First he tried to cover it up, then he couldn't. He tweeted out and attacked the president. Then after him, Samantha Power tweeted out and said, you don't want to piss off Brennan, which was a flat-out threat. And who's Samantha Power? As Fox reported just a few months ago, the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations was unmasking American citizens. Remember what that is? You have, say, a wiretap or a surveillance of a Russian ambassador. During the course of his day, he might be in touch with a senator or a transition team member like Michael Flynn or what have you. And then the people reading this stuff say, we want to know who that is. Unmask the name. So, oh, wow, look who it is. It's Michael Flynn. Well, it turns out Ms. Power, as the ambassador to the United Nations from the United States, was unmasking people at such a rapid pace in the final months of the Obama administration. She averaged more than one request for every working day in 2016, and even sought information in the days leading up to President Trump's inauguration. Two sources said the request to identify Americans whose names surfaced in foreign intelligence reporting, known as unmasking, exceeded 260 that year. And one source indicated this occurred in the final days of the Obama White House. How the hell did she keep her job? Well, because she was good at unmasking American citizens, I suppose. Then something odd happened. She testified to the House Oversight Committee, and apparently she said, well, a lot of people were unmasking in my name, subordinates. I didn't demand all the unmasking. And that committee is chaired by Trey Gowdy. And to this day, we've not gotten to the bottom of it. Old Trey hasn't gotten to the bottom of it. But there was unprecedented unmasking of American citizens. Who else tweeted out over the weekend condemning the firing of McCabe? Eric Holder. Eric Holder repeatedly lied about his knowledge about Fast and Furious. These were these Mexican drug cartels that were free to purchase American weapons because of the ATF plan that Holder signed off on. Now, Holder had denied he had much knowledge about it. Here's the problem. They got emails, texts, documentary evidence that he knew all about it, that he was involved in it. And so Congress did something it had never done before. It held an attorney general in contempt, the first one ever in 2013. He also targeted journalists at the Associated Press, at Fox, James Rosen, and so forth. He also refused to investigate criminally the abuses at the IRS against American citizens. The Inspector General of the Department of Justice accused senior Department of Justice officials under Holder of blocking access to documents and on and on. And I might add, when he was Deputy Attorney General under Bill Clinton, he authorized and agreed to the pardon for Mark Rich, who had fled the country owing an enormous amount of money in taxes. A tax treaty. Why am I mentioning all these people? Because they attacked Donald Trump. Career officials at the Department of Justice trying to clean up the FBI. Career officials at the FBI trying to clear up the FBI. And they attack Trump. And they claim that it's Trump that's destroying the FBI. No, that's not the case at all. Trump had nothing to do with this. It is the good forces in the FBI trying to take the FBI back. And what I've been calling these guys now are dirty cops. They're equivalent of the dirty cops. That is Comey, McCabe, and all the rest of them. They're actually much worse because they, more than the Russians. And I'm no special pleader for Vladimir Putin. I despise him. He's a killer. He's a dictator. He's a kleptocrat, stealing billions and billions of dollars from his people. Murderer. But the truth is that the Obama administration, with Holder, with Samantha Power, with Susan Rice, Sally Yates, Jim Comey, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, all had a role, some more significant than others, some witting, some unwitting, in interfering with the last election. And now they're interfering with the presidency. And now they're trying to force Trump out of office. That's why they immediately jumped into action when McCabe was fired. And they tried to twist that into a Trump scandal. One final thing. You've heard people like Lindsey Graham and others say, particularly the Democrats, we need to pass a law to protect Robert Mueller so he's not fired. Well, 2 points about it. How do you pass a law? Well, Congress passes the law, and who has to sign it? The president. Think the president would sign that law? Now let's say there's enough members of Congress who are into this, that the president vetoes it, and it goes back to Congress, and they have a super-duper majority in the House and Senate to override his veto. 2/3 of both houses. What then? Well, here's the bigger point. We have what's called separation of powers, and apparently members of Congress are unaware of this, particularly Lindsey Graham. And I still doubt that he ever went to law school, but he says he did. Maybe he went to Ed's law school. I don't know where he went. 3 branches of government, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3 of the Constitution. Congress doesn't have the power to stop a president from firing his subordinate in the executive branch, any more than the president has the power to stop Lindsey Graham from firing a staffer on his own staff. Now, they have actions they can take, and they can take it in an illegitimate way. That's impeachment and so forth. But the idea that they could pass a law to prevent a president from firing a subordinate is absurd. Is absolutely absurd and unconstitutional. And these clowns, these senators and congressmen, they put their hand on a Bible, most of them, put their other hand in the air, and they swear allegiance to the Constitution. They don't have allegiance to the Constitution. Half of them don't even understand it, and the other half don't even give a damn. That's it.